Welcome to the Social Impact Podcast with me, Keenan Williams. In this podcast, I speak about how racism is a construct created to divide and how I don't believe in racism. Welcome to the Social Impact. Why is it that we are so on edge as South Africans? It seems like we can't do or say something without being criticized as racist. It seems like we can't escape this race debate. We see it all over social media, one particular racial group attacking another, from the international outcry of H&M's Monkey in the Jungle advert a few months ago to the EFF making racist remarks against the store. Then we can also recall the Penny Sparrow saga and the media reports earlier in 2018 stating that Hoërskool Overval was not accommodating black English-speaking students. I say black with inverted commas because to me, race doesn't exist. It's a construct which had been created in order to divide, and for as long as we classify ourselves in a racial category or see someone else as such, we are giving into those sick individuals who took it upon themselves to divide people according to their skin colors. To me, racism is something which we will never escape from as long as we keep boxing ourselves in racial mentality. It's a form of imprisonment, in my opinion. We think that others are better than us because our skins are darker or lighter than theirs. And in my opinion, and you may disagree with me, we will never be able to be the unified, diverse South Africa many artists portray us to be if we don't move on. I'm not saying that the hurt from the past can't still be felt today. Neither am I saying that people are still suffering because of the hurt and the pain inflicted in the past. However, fighting that fire with fire will never be able to resolve anything. In a statement at the opening of his defense in the Rivonia treason trial in April 1964, the late former South African President Nelson Mandela said,
"I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the idea of a democratic and free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an idea for which I hope to live and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an idea for which I am prepared to die."
Do we still take those words to heart? These were the words of our first democratic president at a time when he would be arrested and imprisoned by a minority group which didn't want to share equally the riches of this land. Madiba said he fought against white domination and black domination. He envisioned already a South Africa which he would one day cherish. A South Africa with a democratic and free societal standing in which all persons live together in harmony with equal opportunities. This ideal South Africa which the father of our nation wanted is a South Africa which many still see for the future of our country, but sadly we are far from it today. It seems like one group is still trying to fight for power and rule over the country and its people, and other groups are trying to do likewise. We hear it on the bus, we hear it around the braai. We must stand together for our people. Our people meaning the people of our skin, language or cultural ethnicity. It brings up another question. Are we patriotic as South Africans? I'm not talking about wearing your rugby jersey on a Friday, nor am I talking about supporting local produce by buying local. Are we South African enough? And why are we not South African enough to be South African? What is stopping us from being people ready, willing and able to work together regardless of our pigmentation and build up this great nation of ours? In his inaugural speech as South African President in 1994, Nelson Mandela said,
We understand it still that there is no easy road to freedom. We know it well that none of us acting alone can achieve success. We must therefore act together as a united people for national reconciliation, for nation building, for the birth of a new world. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let there be work, bread, water, and salt for all. Let each know that for each, the body, the mind, and the soul have been freed to fulfill themselves. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another and suffer the indignity of being the skunk of the world. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. Let freedom reign.
Did we ever take these words to heart? These are powerful and very pertinent words which still resonate today. Freedom is not, was not, and will not be an easy road. Madiba said it himself. We know it well that none of us acting alone can achieve success. This merely slamming men who are thinking that privilege and opportunity can be afforded to one group alone, but Madiba said it best. None of us acting alone can achieve success. Success of what? Success of a unified South Africa where peace and justice reigns. A South Africa where oppression of one by another will be stopped in its tracks. It seems now more than ever Mandela's words and his vision had fallen on deaf ears. But I don't blame you for feeling the way you do. The government Mandela left behind was and is riddled with corruption. Services aren't being delivered. Students are expected to go to school in incomplete hazard zones, while the water, electricity and sanitation which is promised during each election run-up has still not been provided. It really is sad for me to drive into and reside in an affluent suburb while many of my brothers and sisters are sleeping adrift in informal communities ravished with gangsterism and drug abuse. Is this the South Africa we want? Of course it is not. No one wishes to live in a community plagued by social ills, parents fearing the safety of their children, husbands fearing the safety of their wives, the worry of where the next slice of bread will come from, the concern of when they will be next to be evicted from the shack they call home. We are living in a South Africa where when people ask us for help, when people ask for something to eat, we lock our doors and we roll up our windows. I was saddened to hear the story of a former gangster and drug addict who ended up on the streets, say that because of the people of God, he turned away from God. He said that each Sunday he would see people in their Sunday best driving on their way to church. These people he looked up to, people who were so close to God, he thought that they would have answers of how he should get his life back on track. Instead of welcoming him when he would approach their vehicles, they would lock their doors and roll up their windows. How many of us are like this? How many of us, when someone is crying out for help, looking for an answer as to how they can live their lives, shut them out? There are so many South Africans living below the breadline, while others are privileged enough to live in affluent suburbs eating our cake. In my opinion, we are all to blame for the South Africa we find ourselves in. Some are more to blame than others, but we need to roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty and work towards the South Africa we want. As the old saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will be South Africa. We are a long way away from getting to the ideal of where we ought to be as a country, but we shouldn't rest until we are there. Let us work together, regardless of what we believe, what our skin color or cultural ethnicity may be, And as Mandiba said at the UK's Joint Houses of Parliament in July 1996, said, and I quote, "Racism is a blight on the human conscience. The idea that any people can be inferior to another to the point where those who consider themselves superior define and treat the rest as subhuman denies the humanity even those who elevate themselves to the status of gods." Close quote.